right, let's testify tonight.
Oh God, you've done so much for me. I'm grateful and overwhelmed here at your feet. And I could stay here forever, Lord, but you call me to something more. And I hear you say that you have a plan to use every broken woman and man to display just how good you are. We are your living pieces of art. What good does it do to hide away when all of my scars are a picture of grace? All right. So I will testify of the power of God. I will tell the word of the hope I have found. For my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, do you believe it? Has he done it for anyone else? I said, has he done it for anyone else? 'Cause the God that I serve, he's always at work. Has he done it for anyone else? So come on and testify of the power of God. Come on and tell the world of the hope we have found. For our body was broken, our hearts were made whole, and that's too good to keep to yourself. Come on and testify of the power of God. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify your voice. This is my. So I'm gonna testify. Somebody testify. Come on, take it up. Jesus, my champion, the victor of grace, the only one worthy of all of my praise. Yeah. So come on and testify. Oh, somebody lift him high. Come on, testify of the power of God. I will tell the world of the hope I have found. Oh, for my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Sing it. Oh, my body was broken, my heart was made whole, and that's too good to keep to myself. So I will testify of the power of God. Oh, let's do that right now, Murfreesboro.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. The reason we're not doing the Bible study right now is just because I'm genuinely just not feeling very well. So I apologize, but that's just, it's just the way it goes sometimes. Let's see here. I trying to see, trying to get an update here. Sorry. Mercer, obviously, you weren't here on Sunday, where I talked at some length about the Charlie Kirk situation. I'm not going to go through it all again here, except to reiterate that while it's tragic that he lost his life at such a young age and that his kids will not know their father, he was an influencer. He was nothing more than that. And so he was not a first responder. He was not an elected official. He was not a soldier. He was just a guy who went out and spoke for his political agenda. And I understand that a lot of people want to make reverence of that, but I would be more quick to say rest in peace to the various kids that have been killed in schools across the country than him. And it's not because I don't like him, or I mean, I do find his views on race to be completely offensive, but on most other issues, I think that he was mostly correct. Although, you know, it is what it is. But I'm not going to, like I said, go through the whole thing all over again. Let's see. Tristan's here. So I'm sorry. So Bradley is here. Captain Phantom Nerd's here. Mercer's here. Robert's here. Tristan is here. So question: if MacGyver's is recording Khan, how are the recordings of him when he's not around her? I don't know. I haven't listened to any of the Khan podcast radio play thing because, quite frankly, it doesn't interest me. But yeah. Tom says, feel better. Bradley says, sorry to hear you feel bad. Hope you feel better soon. Thank you, Bradley. And, of course, leave it to Alex. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. He wasn't a martyr for Christ, but for free speech and the First Amendment. Yeah, as long as it agreed with him. But I feel like the little brother I never had and was America's future did dirty work for me. Debate is futile. If you mean debating him is futile, sure, because he gaslights anything anybody ever says and doesn't even try to understand their perspective. That's not debate. That's just gaslighting. Thank you, Captain. This will be a short stream, but yeah, thank you. And let's see, Robert says, hello there tonight, Salty. Hello, shalom, shalom. Charlie Kirk Kenobi? What is that even supposed to mean? If you aren't feeling well, and go to bed. I will in a little bit. I'm going to have some soup, and I'm going to watch the premiere of the newest season of Futurama, and then I'm going to go to bed. Problem is, I'd like to just not drive Uber tomorrow, but that's not an option. Why did they wussify Scotty in Strange New Worlds? Duhan was a badass. He punched a Klingon drunk aliens under the table, laughed at a gangster, and didn't flinch around Romulans. The new guy is not Scotty. No, the new guy is young Scotty. So, and by the way, you forgot that he also punched one of the augments from Space Seed and knocked him out cold. But that was older, wiser, more experienced Scotty, not young, new Scotty. Debate with liberals is futile. I'll say this, Alex, debate with any ideologue is futile. Because you are an ideologue, and that's why I just don't argue with you anymore. Because debate with anybody who is just an ideologue, you might as well just be talking to a brick wall. Debate with anyone who thinks they're correct, even when they're not, is always futile. That is true. That's what an ideologue is. And that's my problem with ideologues. I don't care if you tend to lean to the right and you call yourself a conservative, great. If you tend to lean to the left and you call yourself a liberal, great. But if you lean to the left and you think every idea that conservatives come up with is bad because they're conservatives, or you lean to the left or to the right and you think every idea that liberals come up with is bad just because they're liberals, you got a problem. And people will say, "Oh no, I don't really feel that way. After all, I agreed with, Obama when he, chose to wear a nice coat, or something. That's, but whatever." Um, and thank you for the $1.99, Alex. You are an ideologue, not me. Actually, I am a non-sectarian Christian, so I don't even have an ideology when it comes to Christianity except for what's in the Bible. Unlike you follow what the church tells you, regardless of whether it lines up with Scripture. And as far as politics are concerned, on some issues I'm very conservative, on other issues I'm very liberal. It just depends on the individual issue. So I am anything but an ideologue. I understand that I can be cantankerous at times and that you and I butt heads a lot, but just because we disagree doesn't mean I'm an ideologue. Mike Richards, the best thing to come out of Columbus, Ohio, is here. Good to see you. A versus battle, the two live action Nick Furies fight, who wins? Well, that's a tough one because, on the one hand, David Hasselhoff is an American icon from the 80s. However, you know, come on, Samuel L. Jackson he's freaking Samuel L. Jackson. Now, then if you want to go to external sources, thank you so much for pressing with a $5 Canadian.
Hope you feel better, boss. Thumbs up sign.
And I don't know why sometimes it reads it and sometimes it doesn't. No idea why. But thank you so much, Tress, and I do truly appreciate it, buddy. But so if we go to external sources, you could say, well, Samuel L. Jackson was in fact a Jedi Knight and considered to be the most powerful Jedi Knight. So there's that. But David Hasselhoff was Ego the Living Planet, at least for a moment. So, yeah. Mer says Scotty is supposed to be older than Kirk. Not necessarily. James Doohan is older than William Shatner. But never on air do they say Scotty's age. So there's nothing that says Scotty is supposed to be older or younger than Kirk. Now, I get that some people don't like that, this Scotty is before he got into drinking and all that, and he's young and all that, and he's cute and not a cranky old Scotsman. I get that. And, all I can say is, get over it. It's a different show. I have no problem with their take on Scotty. Because this is Scotty as a young officer. How much you need not to Uber tomorrow? That's very kind of you to say, but I couldn't possibly ask anyone to donate that kind of money. So I do appreciate it. But typically, on a day of Ubering, depending on how it goes, on a good day, I can make between $100 and $200 if I can get going early. And I'm so far behind on the bills that I will be going early. Trevor says, today's state of the day does very little in the way of understanding or solving problems. Yeah, it's not debate at all. It's just mutual gaslighting for the most part. It's very rare to see any kind of genuine debate. And in fact, I haven't seen a debate even phrased as a proper debate in a long time. And Mercer with $1. Thank you so much. And
let's be fair, Scotty was the experienced veteran and rock solid loyal. The new guy has nothing in common.
The new guy has plenty in common. He's an ingenious engineer. And in fact, like, because we find out Pelia was his teacher, and she even talked about how he's the most brilliant student, but he got bad grades because he didn't like to, follow the program. But he also works really well under pressure, as we saw in multiple episodes of Strange New Worlds. He is a engineering genius, and he is Scottish, and he wore the same accurate kilt that James Doohan wore in the original series. So they have plenty in common. And by the way, unlike James Doohan, this Scotty is actually Scottish. So he's got that going for him. But he's the only person to play Scotty who's Scottish. That's kind of funny. But I understand you just don't like him that much. But again, it's, what do you expect? They can't cast James Doohan. He's dead. And, if they tried to find a clone of James Doohan, they just say, oh, they're just trying to imitate James Doohan. Just like they didn't, and I appreciate that. I like the fact that the new Captain Kirk isn't just an imitation of William Shatner like Chris Pine tried to be. We went to see Shatner and Mulgrew last week in New Jersey, also Russ and Gooding and the Daxes. Okay. Well, that's cool. A few of those I wouldn't mind seeing. And let's see. Thomas says, you're an ideologue when it comes to your very wrong triple timeline theory. No, because I'm adjusting it. If I was an ideologue, I would never adjust it. However, the reason I say that I'm adjusting it is because now it's more than 3 timelines. And I'm changing the branching point that it is no longer the Borg incursion. Mercer, in all caps, says Scotty was always older than Kirk. The new guy hasn't, I assume that's even shaved for the first time. Well, first of all, you don't have to resort to insult against the new guy. I understand you don't like him, that you think he's too young, all that. However, show me any line of dialogue anywhere in any Trek where Scotty states that he's older than Kirk, or Scotty states his age in a way that we can compare it to the fact that we know Kirk's age was 34 in the Deadly Years. Some people don't like that he's actually Scottish. Yeah, well, it doesn't bother. Honestly, if the actor pulls it off, I don't care if he's Scottish or not. I mean, I will say this. This guy is a lot more like Scotty than Simon Pegg ever was. Let's see. Liberals have been silencing conservatives for the last 5 years. Now they've lost the ban hammer. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. I guess you just, whatever, dude, whatever. Oh, and now they're resorting to bullets. Okay, so you think that this is just a typical liberal that shot Charlie Kirk, as opposed to some psychopath. So that means that every time a conservative does any kind of criminal act, that's typical of conservatives, right? Is that what you're saying? Because I will go toe-to-toe with you on that one, buddy. If you want to compare crimes, I mean, let's see. How many presidents of the United States have actually been convicted of crimes? Oh, yeah, 1. In a TOS episode, I watched Scotty said that he had served on 11 ships before the Enterprise. Yeah, but serving on a lot of ships doesn't mean a long time of service. Scotty was also an engineer, and he wasn't in the command program. Phantom Menace, we want old Trek. Also, they're ripping off old Trek. Yeah, exactly. I don't want a clone of James Doohan. I just hate that every legacy character just doesn't kick butt anymore. I guess it's toxic to have a strong dude. They have to develop their feelings. Well, Mercer, wake up. It's the 21st century, dude. The days of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone dominating the box office are long over, my friend. And while there are macho male characters out there, generally speaking, characters are now a little more nuanced. You know, do I think that every guy has to sit around and cry all the time? No. And by the way, the guys on Strange New Worlds aren't sitting around crying all the time. So there's that. You hear about Avengers Doomsday erasing everything made after Endgame like it never happened, and they be please forget we made that stuff, please. No, I did not hear about that, and I don't care about rumor mill stuff. I mean, honestly, you know, I don't care about that kind of rumors because I would be willing to bet you $100 right now, Bradley, that that is not true. Just got home from a Ruth Bible study. Okay, cool. And now she's chucking wrenches at everybody. Captain Fadner, Mercer, and Thomas are the first victims to fall under her wrench assault. Don't go offline yet. Getting home for some change. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean there, but I'll wait a few minutes. And now Penny's throwing wrenches at Gorilla and Tristan. Penny is just a murderous wrench psychopath. You know. I don't like how they're portraying Pike in the comedic episodes. Well, I think that Pike in the 4.5 Vulcans, I hate to say, but Anson Mount was definitely the weak link of that episode by a country mile. I don't understand why excuse me, why his acting was so cartoonish in that one. As far as other comedic episodes, I'm not sure exactly where you're going with that, Thomas, so I don't know. And now Miss Moneypenny is hugging other people because she's trying to make up for all the people that have severe concussions due to the wrenches. Well, I guess that's a... Oh, and thank you, Alex. That's very kind. So, here's some sleep-in money to start. You and I both know not all crimes are equal. Well, I didn't say that the one president who's been convicted of crimes, I didn't say the crime was murder. But at the same time, tell me any other president that's been convicted of a crime. Now, Miss Moneypenny is now officially a member. If only I had some really cool membership perks to give her. But thank you, Miss Moneypenny. Son got kicked out of daycare, now have free time again. Okay. Godson says, and you are streaming. And Mer says, Nermal loves you. Well, thank you. Nice to know that Nermal still loves me. Well, thank you for that, Alex. I assume that's why you told me not to wrap up the stream. So I do truly appreciate it. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow night I'll be feeling better. After my driving today, I bit the bullet and spent money that I shouldn't have, but got some, NyQuil and cough drops and stuff to try and deal with it today, for the rest of the night and for tomorrow. But yeah. Robert says, speaking about Charlie Kirk, remember when Billy Graham died, they made a huge deal out of that. His body was even taken to D.C. I don't remember that, probably because I didn't care when Billy Graham died. I was never a big fan of Billy Graham. But I would say the same thing that I've said about Charlie Kirk. Billy Graham was a very successful pastor, but he was not a first responder or an elected official or a soldier. And so all the various honors that he's getting from the government, I think, would be unwarranted. And so Lincoln started a war against his own people. Oh, you mean he freed the slaves? Yeah, horrible of him. Should the U.S. government and Bushes make such a big deal out of Billy Graham's death? No, they shouldn't have. Uh, I, 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 I don't think so. The only time the federal government should do anything other than, like, I could understand, for example, if, since you guys really want to talk about this, if President Trump had simply issued a statement about how horrible it was that Charlie Kirk was killed, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't bother me at all. However, he's posthumously getting the American Medal of Freedom. Remember, he's an influencer. He's not, he's just an influencer. That's all he is. A very well paid one. And Alex saying George W. Bush started endless war in the Middle East. Lots of presidents have started wars. However, there was nothing illegal about it. In fact, he and it wasn't endless, but because the war ended. But at least the one in Iraq. But Bush had authority from Congress to act. And even though some of the Congress people had buyer's remorse after the fact, he didn't break the law. So, and even if he did break the law, there have been no charges filed against him, and he has not been convicted. There's still only one president in U.S. history that's been convicted of a crime. At least, well, I don't know if anybody else has ever been convicted of a crime after they left office. I don't think so. But he's definitely the only president the only convicted felon to serve as president. That's for sure. So just because a president does something you disagree with doesn't mean that they're guilty of a crime. And in my opinion, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Only the Pharisees care about the letter of the law. Well, apparently you do. As far as if you're talking about religion now, you care about the letter of the Orthodox law. You don't care about what the Bible says. So if God says it, you can take or leave it. But if the church says it, then it's, it's funny because the old expression is written in stone, and that expression is based on the Ten Commandments. Oprah got a Medal of Freedom. All she did was get rich and talk about how the poor are suffering. Okay, and you know what? That's a splendid. I honestly didn't know Oprah got the Medal of Freedom. And
the crime
Alex,
is abuse of office
chat,
by
I'll
the
get to
NY
in just
judge.
a second here. But I think this is really an interesting comparison. Oprah got a Medal of Freedom, and all she did was get rich and talk about how the poor are suffering. Okay, now let's make a couple of slight changes. Charlie Kirk is getting a Medal of Freedom. All he did was get rich and talk about conservatism. Hate what happened to, I can never pronounce that name just as much as what happened to Charlie Kirk. I agree. And what happened in the schools is even worse, in my opinion. When little kids get shot, that really gets to me more than, even, as brutal as the subway beating was, the kids getting shot just breaks my heart. Charlie Kirk getting shot would probably have to be in third place on that list. Okay, so the crime is abuse of office by the New York judge. No, the crime was not abuse of office by the New York judge. You know that's true. Look, he just because you don't like that, and this is the problem. The Republicans, in which have always been the party that believes in the rule of law. They believe in our constitutional system, which says, among other things, that you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and that if you are convicted in a court of law, then you are guilty unless you file an appeal and win the appeal, or are granted a pardon. So far, at least, you could say, you could vacate those charges if you could show that New York judge actually abused power, except that, guess what? Didn't happen. Nothing happened outside of the rule of law as far as the Trump trial is concerned. I understand you don't like it. I understand you're gonna come up with a million excuses as to why it's all fake. But the simple fact is, evidence was presented, and Trump was convicted. And while some people say, well, it's not fair that it was felony charges because it could have been misdemeanor charges. Yeah, it could have been, but they chose not to. And that's called judiciary discretion. And you may not like that, but that's how the system works. She gave out a lot of cars. She did do that. That's why she got the Medal of Freedom, was because you get a car and you get a car. Godson says, I don't care about Trump. Well, I'm not even talking about, the main thing about the Charlie Kirk thing, but the fact that, I find it rather, let's just say, I don't want to sound paranoid here, but it's rather unusual that the FBI would be on site 16 minutes after the shots were fired. Is there any other case where that's happened? That I don't know of one. Maybe there is. Outside of maybe if, there was an FBI agent across the street or something and happened to be a witness. The Kash Patel himself worked the crime scene. When does that happen, that the director of the FBI actually shows up and works the crime scene? The information on the timeline of events was presented by the director of the FBI, the governor of the state of Utah, as well as the local police sheriff, when usually it would just be the sheriff. This is just a murder. Don't get me wrong. It's tragic, but it is just a murder. It's not, it's not terrorism. It's not anything crazy. It's just murder. But you usually don't see the governor, the director of the FBI, and the sheriff all giving press briefings. Oh, and who else gave press briefings? The President of the United States. That's way too much. And Alex says, all victims of Stalin's purges had a trial too. All victims of Stalin's purges had a trial too. Why would the victims have a trial? And we're not Russia. I understand you love Russia, but we're not Russia. I don't care about Russian internal affairs. This is not the United States of Russia. The Orthodox is not what you think, Michael. Well, I'm mostly, and you're probably right, Godson, but I'm just going by what Alex says. And so I will say, obviously not, most Orthodox people that I've talked to have seemed rather devout. Alex seems to be the exception. I mean, Alex is the only person who I've ever heard say that you can sleep around a little bit and it's okay. Um, so, and then when he asked Alex about that person whose name I can't pronounce, Alex said, sad but not surprising. Well, I would say the exact same thing about Charlie Kirk. It is sad, but it's not surprising. Why is it not surprising? Because the man spent an entire career whacking at beehives and he got stung. Didn't some appeals court rescind Trump's fine? I don't know. I'd have to look. As far as I know, the convictions still stand. And in fact, the last I heard, in fact, I remember that you might be talking. There was another case in which the prosecutors simply requested that the charges be dismissed without prejudice, which was granted. And what that means is that the charges were basically dropped. However, the without prejudice part means that they can bring those charges back after he's out of office. And the reason they did that was because he had won the presidency by this point, and they didn't want to, and a sitting president is immune. Um, and now it says the civil case. Well, we're not talking about the civil case. I'm talking about the felonies. Um, on my other channel, I did make a video about that. Good. Was that like Trump, let me blow you.com? Let's see. Again, liberals aren't using bullets. A person shot another person. And so you're trying to over politicize this because that's the narrative that you wish to push as an ideologue. I'm simply saying that on a murder case, what we're seeing here is unprecedented. But Robert says, some strange reason Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize also. Yeah, that makes no sense. But, I whatever. Almost didn't see this. Tricked me with the Sunday thumbnail. Sorry. Direct viewer says, I heard a strange report that Secret Hideout has been told that filming on all their Star Trek series had to be done by Christmas. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, I don't get into the rumor mill that much. Just like Mr. Know-It-All messaged me earlier today saying that he heard that apparently Skydance, the new owner of Paramount, is making an aggressive buyout attempt on Warner Brothers. And that's true, actually. Alex, people were asking you about you on Sunday. Let's see. Academy season 2. Did they film all Strange New World season or in the short season 5 at the same time? I don't know. And it would make sense that honestly, it would make complete sense considering Skydance may not want Secret Hideout to be in charge of the Star Trek brand moving forward. Now, Skydance has talked about doing another Star Trek film, which I'm not a big fan of that idea, but if they want to do it, that's their prerogative. So I don't think that the Star Trek brand is dead as far as just because they want Secret Hideout to finish production. I think it's because they're going to get rid of Secret Hideout. Let's see. Let's not say anything negative about Charlie Kirk. Let's change the subject. Well, tell people to stop talking about it, and I will stop talking about it, Miss Moneypenny. Uh, you know, and so back to Alex's super chat. I'm not speaking ill of Trump. I'm simply stating facts. I didn't offer any opinion on Trump. I just said that, he was convicted. Heck, at first, I didn't even say Trump. I just said there's been one president ever convicted. And no, I'm not doing a Bible passage today, Penny, because this is going to be a truncated stream. I'm going to be wrapping up in just a minute here. Teddy Roosevelt versus Abraham Lincoln fist fight. Fist fight, I'd give it to Roosevelt. If they were wrestling, I would give it to Lincoln. And Alex says Charlie Kirk was like a little brother. Really? Did you know him personally? Because if you didn't know him personally, he wasn't like a little brother to you. You're just saying that because you like the guy. I was like, hope I didn't miss you. He usually does a little talk and then the Bible package and back to the chat, then peace out. Yes, Stan, you didn't read the name of this live stream, obviously. Today I'm just feeling under the weather, so we're just talking for a minute and then I'm going to wrap up. He was a memento of Antifa. I don't know who he was, so what you even mean by that. And of course, Alex never met him in person. He's just saying that to, I don't know, claim some kind of cred on that. The guy who killed Charlie Kirk was far left. I don't know anything about the guy. The only thing I've heard is that his family is apparently very conservative and that he didn't like Charlie Kirk. That's about all I know. The funny thing, though, is that if he truly was far left, assuming that what Kash Patel said at the press conference was accurate, then the engravings on the bullet casings don't seem to be coming from a far left individual, particularly the one in the fourth round. Didn't Obama get done at first? I don't remember if it was the first or second year. I thought it was stupid back then. I still think it's stupid. I think that he got it just because people saw his election as a symbol of hope. Unfortunately, no. But on election night, we both tied when Pennsylvania was. We both, I assume you mean cried. So that makes him your brother because you both cried. Well, then I guess Danny's my brother because we both cried when Spock died in Star Trek II. I didn't like that they had Kirk and Spock do a mind meld. I like the idea that their friendship had to be organic. Charlie Kirk got the Amish to vote Trump. Okay, you're the first person I've heard that from, but yay? I guess. So what? Charlie Kirk was an influencer. He was paid good money to influence, and I guess he influenced the Amish somehow. Good for him. Anyway, Stan, as to the mind meld thing, and you see, Miss Moneypenny, I'm just responding to comments. I didn't like the. Okay, so as far as the Kirk Spock thing, I actually kind of dug the mind meld because of the fact that that's why Kirk beats Spock at chess. I like that. I came back after hearing the Sunday replay. Just devastated after the Kirk murder. Didn't want to get my emotions get out of control. Okay. Why were you emotional? We never met them. And with another super chat, conviction of the term, conviction of Trump, conviction of the U.S. judicial system. Whatever, dude. So, here's the problem. It's kind of funny because Paul Harvey did a And you should look this up. Paul Harvey was a commentator from a long time ago, but he did a little thing called "If I Was the Devil," and in it, among other things, he talks about all the various things he would do if he were the devil to try and undermine America. And of course, a few right wingers out there have tried to use it to show, oh yeah, see, this is what's wrong with liberals, because they're not really paying attention to it. It's just like when South Park hits both sides, and everybody selectively only sees the part going against them. And in it, what's interesting is that he said that, as among the influences that he would do would be to convince churches to pray every day, "Our Father who art in Washington." And that's exactly what you do. Because I'm sorry, Alex, you worship Trump. Why, I don't know, but you do. Suggesting their minds have been linked when their younger sort ruins the idea of them having become close through normal close relationship or close friendship. Well, I don't think it does. Skydance wants to bring all production of Star Trek back in house. Probably. Teddy was a tough SOAB. That is true, but so was Lincoln. Yeah, I got to a point where arguing solidly became pointless, and you seem to be getting unplugged on your own. Okay. Alex, quite frankly, I know you weren't here on Sunday, but, nobody really had a problem with, at least not in a major way, maybe Gorilla to a small extent, of my opinion on Charlie Kirk. You're the one that wants to turn it into a thing about Trump. I didn't bring Trump into this, other than to say there was one president that had ever been convicted of a crime. But you were the one that won't let it go. No, you did not miss a review of the final Strange New Worlds. Mr. Know-It-All was not up to doing the show on Friday, so hopefully we'll get to that this Friday. Let's see. King John versus Vlad the Impaler. Probably have to give that one to Vlad. I think Strange New Worlds finale was between those. Not sure what those are. Last I heard, the FBI was talking to the guy's transgender partner who is cooperating. Okay. Stanley says transgender furry. And, now you see that could possibly bring out motive, to be honest. So if this guy had a transgender partner, then, obviously Charlie Kirk has been very harsh on the transgender movement. And so there your motive could be. The left wants people dead. So did the right. Let's not pretend that, there were members of Congress that were joking a few years back where liberals
Trump is a stupid and naive man. Without him we would have had a dictatorship by now. A last cry of desperation by American people.
And let's see. Just like many believe that the FBI is actually murdered Milk, or Martin Luther King. There are lots of wonderful conspiracy theories out there. I'm sure that sooner or later somebody's going to have a conspiracy theory that the FBI murdered Charlie Kirk. Just wait for it. It'll come out eventually. Hope that the final episode would have been more climactic when we did that planet come to the... and when did that planet become the Q homeworld? It didn't become the Q homeworld. Not that I know of. Okay, so Trump is a stupid and naive man. Without him, we would have had a dictatorship by now. Okay. You see, that's the funny thing. When I say you worship him, you say Trump is stupid and naive, but without him, we would have had a dictatorship. Then I guess he's not that stupid and naive, right? So which is it? Is he stupid and naive, or is he the protector of American liberty? Whatever. Better away team leader, Kirk, Riker, or Pike? Um, I would have. Well, I mean, Riker we've seen lead more away teams, um, but I would probably have to give it to. That's a tough one. I don't know. I have to look at it, to be honest.
I was devastated
Like, what are
because
the odds of
Kirk was
getting
America's
killed on an away
future.
team under each of them, etc.? I was devastated because Kirk was America's future. Well, you know what? If that was America's future, then so you want, a race realist future, sure. Well, in that case, I'm glad that he's not the future. I'm not glad that he's dead, but I'm glad that he's not the future. What if your name was John Landlock, means weak sword? Well, that would be a lousy name to have. When you spend the goon multi-gunman to restrict, when you send the goon multi-gunman to restrict free speech, you just act like the left. First of all, multi-gunman is not a goon. He is a human being. And you know what? You don't get free speech here. This is not, I am not the United States government. YouTube is a private platform. So there's no such thing as the First Amendment here. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. But I know, I'm trying to debate with you and you're an ideologue. I will shut up now. Godson is okay with a monarchy. The right gets sick of things with how the country's falling apart. The country's been falling apart under the right and the left. If you look at Memory Alpha, it lists Validian 9 as Q Homeworld. Okay, but is Memory Alpha canon? Picard is America's future. Oh man, I hope not. The only Starfleet captain that could be America's future that I would look forward to would be Kirk. Better first officer, La'an, Worf, or Data? Well, kind of funny because of those, none of them were anything other than an acting first officer. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch every time they were a first officer. Bald and full of long speeches. Yeah, well, that would pretty much sum up the American political system. Apparently, the Trelane episode, he called it the old homeworld. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. I didn't catch that. But anyway, so with that, I am going to wrap it up because I don't want to talk about Charlie Kirk.